Hey, it's Justin from Perth Pro, and we've just finished up the build on this Mercedes Sprinter. This one was a bit of a unique build. It came to us as a half-finished project, so it took a bit for us to work out where all the cabling was run, as all the cable had pretty much been run throughout the van, but nothing was labelled, so we just kind of had to try to work it all out, and then we were able to finish off the job. So that's why this one's got a few different products in it that we don't typically recommend and install, but we're able to get it all sorted for the customer. So we'll start at the front and then we'll work our way around. So just at the top there, it's just got a steady light bar. That's a full custom made roof rack that was done by the previous installer. It's a pretty nice roof rack that's got all the solar integrated into it with the light bar there, so it's a pretty nice little setup there. And then we'll just go around into the cab. There's not really much in the actual front of the vehicle on this one. So just inside the cab, we've just installed two switches. So you've got the light bar switch on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side the rear work lights. Mercedes Sprinters are actually pretty difficult to get switches in them. No one actually makes any switches for them, so those are actually Toyota large switches that we've just been able to make work into the Mercedes ones there. So they sit a little bit proud, but apart from that they kind of suit the actual vehicle, so they worked out pretty nice. And then we've just got the inlet here for the 240 that's just feeding the multi-plus just on the inside that we'll show you later. So that'll give you some 240 volt charging when you're plugged into shore power. Then just down here you got your shower outlet. So this is just incorporated into the full plumbing system. It was a pretty big plumbing situation for this one. It's probably our biggest plumbing we've ever done on it. So they've got an outdoor shower, indoor shower, a couple tanks underneath, one for fresh water, one for your grey water, and then a sink and all that stuff inside. But we'll speak about more of the plumbing once we actually jump inside and check it all out. That's probably it for here. We'll just jump around to the back. So just at the top on the roof, just got a couple steady work lights there. So we just got two switches, one in the cab and then one at just the back here just to turn those on. They're not what I would call dual switching, as it does have two switches to turn it on and off, but unfortunately just the way the cable runs were already done, you have to actually turn them on and off at the same location. So if you turn them on here at the back, so you have to turn them off, you'll have to turn it off there. And then same at the front, if you turn them on at the front, you'll have to turn them off at the front. So yeah, you have two different ways to turn them on and off, but unfortunately it's not really dual switching, as you can't turn them on and off at a different location, but still a nice feature to have, to be able to turn them on or off at the back. And then just into the front here, we've got all our electrical components just installed just down in here. So we'll start at the top, work our way down. So it's got the earth leakage detection system here. That's probably more of like a 240 volt like house situation setup. So yeah, we don't typically recommend installing them on vehicles. Just next to that is just your LTE, so that way we can dial in. If the customer ever has any issues down the line, we can just dial in remotely using that LTE network. Next to that is the GX tank. So we actually haven't wired this one in. It's not actually needed. If you get the right water senders for the servo, 0 to 190 ohms, then you don't need the GX tank unit itself. So we've gone and fitted the 0 to 190 ohm resistors in both tanks, so we're able to wire that directly into the servo. So there's no need for the actual GX tank to be installed. Just next to that is just a couple MIDI fuses for the actual solar. So it's just got two banks of solar up there, with two strings. So that's just the two individual MIDI fuses for that. And then below that is actually feeding the two MPPTs. So battery power just comes in from the actual Lynx distributor, feeds each one of the actual two MPPTs from there, and then it goes out to the actual battery. Just below that you got your servo. So that's pretty stock standard. It's just got everything talks to the actual servo, and then that then displays everything onto the Touch 50 at the back of the van there. And then we just got two MPPTs. You got the 120 and then 150/35. That's just for the two sets of solar they got on the roof there. I'm not 100% sure of what wattages they have up there, as it was all pre-installed before we got to it, but I do believe they've got 3 panels around like 60-80 watts, and then maybe 3 or 4 at 200 watts. So that's why we've just got the 2 MPPTs, just so we don't mix those 2 wattages. And then just next to that is the converter. So this is a 48 volt battery and 48 volt multi-plus. So we just had to use this converter just to convert it all the way down so we can run our 12 volt sockets in there. So that's just a 48 to 12 with a 30 amp capacity there for the converter. Then just below that is just the battery protect. So that's just protecting all the 12 volt sockets, so that way if you ever get a big voltage spike from the 48 volt system, it's not going to affect those 12 volt outlets, so it just helps protect all your 12 volt there. So that's just your battery protect. And then next to that is just the link system, so that's just your links distributor. In there we've just got 4 fuses, they're mega fuses, and then it's just feeding the inverter, the solar, the converter, and then the other one was for the fuse box. So there's just a few different fuses in there for that. And then the good thing about the link system is it does tell you when there's a blowing fuse. It tells you on there with the red lights. If one of those light up red, similar to like the fuse boxes we install, that means you got a blowing fuse. And then what you can actually also do as well, you can program each one of those individual fuses on the servos, and then when you're on the touch 50, you can see straight away, oh, this fuse is blown, and you know straight away what it is. So you don't have to worry about labeling them manually, as you'll label them electronically through the servo, so then you can just view it all on the touch 50 display. Next to that one, so that's actually the BMS, it's not the link shunt. So they actually already had installed the Victron batteries. So Victron batteries don't have a BMS, so because of that you need to have an external BMS, so that's why they've obviously opted for the BMS instead of the shunt. That does have a shunt in it in the BMS, so unfortunately, yeah, they are a bit more trickier to actually install. You've got to run cabling to your batteries, and then the downside to it is if you ever do want to upgrade and like add some extra batteries into the future, you are going to have to go for the Victron batteries, because you can't go for then a battery that's got a BMS in it, otherwise it's going to stuff with the actual BMS that's already installed. So that's why we typically don't recommend the Victron batteries, just because they are a little bit more expensive, and then you're kind of restricted to what batteries you can actually get, and then you're locked into having to get the Lynx BMS or an external BMS with it, where if you just went for say like the Amtron batteries that we normally recommend, they already have an inbuilt BMS in them, so then it just gives you a bit more flexibility. It's not ideal to mix batteries, but as long as they stay that same amperage, it's all good. So that's why we always recommend that, and then that way you're not locked in to an Amtron battery in the future. If you find another one of the same capacity, just add it on and it's all good. But with these Victron batteries, if they do want to upgrade, they're going to have to get Victron again to be able to talk to the whole system. So they have opted for 24 volt batteries with a 48 volt system. So we've got 2 behind the little shelf here, just swings out, and behind in there you've got your 2 Victron batteries. They're 25 volts each, only 100 amps each. We've had to put them in series to make them 48 volt to work with the system. So we've got 48 volt, 100 amps. It probably is a little bit light for this setup with all the stuff that they're running. It's really just equates to 400 amps at 12 volt. Probably is a bit light when you want to run an AC, induction cooking, hot water unit, and then the rest of the electrical stuff. It's probably a little on the light side, but we'll see how they go. They do have a bit of solar, so hopefully that'll keep them topped up. But yeah, it's impacting, they're pretty tight. We probably would have recommended a 24 volt system, as it just gives you a bit more flexibility when it comes to batteries and that. When you go to the 48, you're kind of a bit more restricted to what you can do, and then you're guaranteed when you go to a 48 volt system that you have to put a converter in. A lot of components these days, they'll run 12 or 24 volt, so a lot of the time you could run a 24 volt system and probably get away with not actually running a converter. So that's just probably the benefits to a 24 volt system compared to a 48. I think 48 will be good in the future, but till a lot of these components start coming out 48 volt ready, they it's probably got a bit of restrictions in it, and it just requires you to have to install an extra bit of component to make it work. Just down in underneath the batteries as well is the actual AC unit. So that's a 240 volt one, so that just runs off the actual inverter itself. It's a pretty nice little unit. It's got a couple little outlets up close towards the front of the actual van, and it's just tucked away nicely in there. It's just got a vent that we've just installed that we can show you once we get into the van, that just draws the air in and then just blows it out the two vents at the top. So it's a pretty nice little unit there. Just on the right hand side of the back here is the hot water unit itself there. That's the same again, it's a 240 volt unit. So that just supplies all the hot water to the whole van. There's hot water running everywhere, to the outdoor shower, the indoor shower, and to the internal sink as well. It's just an instant hot water unit, so it draws quite a lot of power when you first power it up, trying to heat up that water that's in there. But as long as you obviously keep it all on, it'll keep that warm, and then really you're only going to be heating up the water as it comes into the system as you're using it. So yeah, it's a pretty nice little compact unit just tucked away in there. And then just down further of the electrical is the Quattro Multi-Plus in there. So that's a 48 volt, 5 kVA unit. So it's an extremely powerful unit, easily be able to handle all their 240 volt needs with no issues. But yeah, just being a 48 volt system, that's why they obviously had to put those batteries into series there, just so that it could run that Quattro 48 volt inverter. That's probably it really when it comes to the back here. I mean, you can see at the top just the little reading lights that were just installed. So they've just got a little switch on it to turn them on and off, and then there's just a little USB-A port underneath them, just so you can charge your phones at night while you're sleeping. That's probably it for the back here. We can jump around inside and then check out what's in there. Alright, now we're in here, so we've got our indoor shower here. So this one was a pretty intense, proper plumbing job really. It was all house plumbing fixtures with the mixture, and then the actual, I guess whatever you call it, the shower head and that itself. So it took a bit of work to get that one all installed, and then change the fittings to be able to then talk to the rest of the system. But now it's all installed. It's a pretty nice little shower in there, and yeah, it looks pretty clean. So yeah, now that it's done, it's pretty nice. Also just up here, just on the roof, they've just got two fans. These are pretty cool. You just hit the button to turn them on, and then they'll just pop up for you, and they do all the work for you. So they're pretty nice little fans. Those fans were already installed. All we had to do really was, they just had grates that were just down below. We just had to cut them back so they're flush with the actual roof, and then just chuck these last finishing touches on, and then obviously just wire them actually up. So yeah, those are pretty nice. Just on the inside here, we've just got two switches. So this is part of the dual switching. This is what I call proper dual switching now. It's got one at the front here and then one at the back towards the bed, just to turn the two lights on. So you've got the upper lights just underneath the cabinets that will come on, and then the bottom switch is just to turn the lights on down below all the cabinets there. So those are pretty nice lights. There's a nice color as well. So that's the first switch for that, and then we can show you the other switch as we get into the actual van. Then just here we got the Safari. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but this is just a dual induction cooktop here, just with a GPO underneath. This is a pretty nice brand. They do a lot of stuff on boats, and that's pretty high-end stuff. And yeah, it's definitely a nice induction cooktop. We've also installed their DC-DC charger. It's a 12 to 48 volt charger that's located underneath the passenger seat. That's a 1.5 kilowatt charger, so it can put in quite a lot of juice into the system quite quickly. It's got a pretty nice system as well. They've got AI that's built into it. So what you've actually got to do is you've got to run a sensor. It's just a temperature sensor, bolt that onto the back of the alternator, then just run another wire from the alternator just to pick up when it's actually charging. Run that straight into the DC-DC, then you're just picking up power from the start battery, run the power out back to your auxiliary battery, and then just run an ignition feed or just a battery feed to it, whatever suits you, and then it'll just automatically pick that alternator up once you've programmed it all with the alternator settings and configured it to suit the van. it'll just automatically pick that up and then start pumping in up to 1.5 kilowatts into your auxiliary battery. It's got inbuilt technology, so there's never meant to actually overload your alternator. So if you did have a lower alternator installed and 1.5 kilowatts was too much for it, it's got technology in there to know that we're going to overload the alternator here, so let's not pull 1.5 kilowatts. So it's a pretty good unit. They are a bit expensive, but I mean, if you can justify it, they can definitely get in a lot more power than your traditional DC-DCs. And then just down here on the wall, so this is our first outlet here for the AC, and then we've got the other one just down here on the wall here. They put out quite a bit of air for how small those outlets are, so it's a pretty good AC unit, so yeah, that's not too bad. Then we've got our touch 50 here, so stock standard with that, just displays all your normal things that you can see. It's got the solar, it's got AC loads, turn the inverter on and off there, shows your battery, and then if you ever putting any AC loads in, it'll do that. We've also got the tanks that are there as well, so you just go across to the levels there and you can see the two tanks. So you've got the fresh water and then the wastewater one there, so that's pretty nice. And then that's why you just need those 0 to 190 ohm resistors, and then the way the servo can pick them up properly and then be able to display them on the actual tank. So that's pretty nice to be able to see your tank levels there. You can put quite a lot of tanks on the servo, so yeah, if you've got more than just two, you can obviously make them all work as well. You just got to make sure you pick the right depth for your actual tank. So I think we put 200 mil ones in this because that was suited, but you can get ones that go to like 400, I think maybe even longer than that, down to I think like 125 mil. So you just pick the right size one for you, and then the servo will do the rest once you've programmed it in. This little unit here is just for the actual control for the AC, so it knows what to talk to. So that's all that is. So you just had to put that in a nice accessible area, so then your remote will talk to that and then that'll talk to the AC unit. Just down here we've got a dual GPO just on the bench top there, so if you ever want to run any other appliances off your kitchen bench top, you got a nice double GPO there. Just on the right hand side here is the sink. So this one once again was a little bit of work to put in, mainly the mixer. So the mixer's got actually a little drinking water one here. It's got its own little filter, so you can just turn that on and then off, and then you've got nice filtered clean fresh water probably from the tank, and then just your normal mixer tap here. It's once again wired into the actual hot water system, and then it all gets drained out, same as the actual shower as well, to the wastewater tank that's located on the left hand side, and then the fresh water side is on the driver's side. You do have two drawers that are down in there. Unfortunately, you probably might have noticed on the passenger seat the drawer is just sitting on there. Unfortunately, we can't fit it. Really just needs a cutout put into it, so that now that we've put obviously the plumbing in for the waste and that, you just can't close the drawer anymore. So it really just needs like a U shape cut into it, or just shortened up a little bit. But they're going to send this to a cabinet maker now that we're finished with it, just finish off all the fit off, so they can quite easily just knock that up, just do that little cutout for it, and then that way you're able to close the drawer on that one. Then just down in here you've got a vent for the AC, so that's where the AC will suck it all through, and then just on the inside there's just another little vent, so it'll go through here into there, and then it gets sucked into the AC, and then it'll come out the actual outlet. So we just chuck those into the actual door. Just down here is just the little like electrical cabinet, really for your fuses and that. So you've got your 3 RCDs at the top. So you've got your incoming RCD, so it'll come from your inlet through the RCD, come out of the RCD, goes to your Quattro, then it comes out of the Quattro back on the other RCD, and then from there it goes to all your outlets. And then the third RCD, the 10 amp, is just for the actual AC unit itself, so it's got its own separate one. So if you wanted to isolate the AC unit but then still run all your other outlets, you're able to do that by just flicking that actual RCD. And then we've got the fuse box under there for our 12 volt outlets there. Then just down here is our second lot of switches. So you've got the top one, same again as the other one, is for our overhead cabinets of the dual switching, and then the middle one is for the underneath lights, and then the bottom one is for actually the water pump. So that's just those 3 switches there. And then we've got USB outlets each side of the bed head, left and right. Just got 2 USB A's and 1 USB C, so then that way If they want to charge their phone at the top there off the reading light, they can, or if they want to charge from here, they can do that as well, like when they're sitting down on these two little seats here. And then yeah, we've got just the second fan up there that we've already spoke about, but that probably about does it for this van. But yeah, it's a pretty nice setup. They should have no problems going off grid. With that solar setup, they might be able to last quite a while off grid. Just depends how much AC power they want to be able to pull, how often they're going to be running the AC unit. It does draw a fair bit of power, I think about 30 odd amps. And then with the hot water unit and that going, they are drawing quite a bit out of that battery, but hopefully that solar will keep them topped up and then they'll be able to stay off grid for a while. But yeah, if you're after something similar to this setup, or you want to try to go off grid yourself, just head over to our website at perthpro.com.au or contact us at info@perthpro.com.au, and we'll catch you in the next one.